What's up guys, Magic Knives here, and in today's video I'm bringing to you a new airsoft review on the Tokyo Marui FN57. This is a very unique handgun, and I've strayed away from it for a while, and well, I can't say that. I did have quite the interest in it for a while, but I kind of, put it off for quite some time, and then recently I've decided to retire my VFC USP9 just because I was having way too many issues with it, and the look of it just started to get stale on me, and I wasn't a big fan of it anymore. So I've switched over to a new pistol now, at least as a alternative for, if I'm not running my VFC Glock 18C, which I'm currently getting that fixed right now. So yeah, for this very unique pistol, very tactical looking, very popular amongst rappers and such, so that's something. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about some of the features with this airsoft replica, as well as some of the similarities it has with the real handgun, because it is pretty unique. So first and foremost, this is a green gas pistol, so or technically with Tokyo Marui you're supposed to run Dester gas on it, but I've ran green gas on Tokyo Marui pistols before, and really haven't had any issues. Just as long as you take good care of it, you're adding silicone oil to it once in a while just to make sure the seals are good, and make sure you're not beating the shit out of it, right? Because you do have a lot more plastic parts involved, so just want to keep that in mind. In the box, you will get what they claim to be a 26 round magazine, but tried it out, and the most you can fit is actually 25 rounds, and possibly just 24 if you don't do any modifications. And what I mean by that is, if you look right here near the bottom, there's a little gap, and that is where you'll take your speed loader after you pull the follower down. That is where you will drop your BBs in. But I found that the opening was a little bit too small to allow you to fit 25 rounds, because this whole part here is too thin to just feed BBs in there. So you kind of have to. It does take a little bit more patience to actually load the magazine and make sure you don't have any gaps. So what I actually did, in order to just give myself one extra round, I took a Dremel piece, or took a Dremel. I took one of those very thin nose-shaped Dremel pieces. If you have a Dremel, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's basically a kind of like pointed end Dremel piece, and I just Dremeled the hole a little bit, widened it a bit more. That way I could squeeze one extra BB in, so it's at least 25 rounds instead of 24, which is one extra one, but still one short of the capacity that they claim that this holds. Maybe they were talking about one in the chamber as well, but who knows? Doesn't really matter. 25 is pretty good enough already, and the fact is, the real FN57, the standard capacity you'll get with this is 20 rounds, so you're already getting an extra 5 rounds out of it, so close enough to the real thing. So that is one modification you'll have to make if you want to add, if you want to have 25 rounds in this instead of just 24, okay, and just easier time with loading. So that's that. Because the magazine is so big, firstly, it's about the same size as a Desert Eagle magazine, which I've done a review video on as well. And you've seen the magazine, it's just about the same size as this. This is probably a little bit bigger, but because of that, it does hold quite a bit of gas. You do still have to fill it up quite a bit just to make sure you get full capacity to go through an entire magazine. And one other modification that I made with the magazine is that I've placed a little tiny size number 2 O-ring in there, which it's not quite the proper size, but it just fills in the tiny gap with the valve, because Tokyo Marui gas mags don't have a O-ring in the fill valve, so you do get a lot of spraying. You do waste quite a bit of gas. So just to make the gas efficiency a little bit better and not to waste gas, I inserted the size 2 O-rings in all of my magazine. I have 3 magazines in total now with this, so 75 rounds, which is nice. So same amount as I did for my my USP. That way, I just have a much easier time to fill it up and make sure it's full and I'm not wasting gas. It is a bit tedious because obviously putting the O-ring in there, like you gotta make sure you have like some, either just use your green gas can and be patient with it and try not to freeze your hand too much, or if you have like a propane adapter, that makes it a little easier. You can kind of just shove it in there to make it a little easier. So that's that. Really good gas efficiency overall, other than those modifications that I told you about. Now let's move on to the gun itself. This is actually a single action handgun. Even though you don't see the hammer is actually internal. So it's kind of a nice mix between a Glock and and your typical 1911, because it does have a single action trigger, but the hammer's internal, so you don't have to worry about snagging the hammer or anything like that. So that's kind of nice. So the mag release is only found on the left side right here. Okay, it's very big. You can hit it with your thumb very easily, so the magazine just drops out. If you're lefty, you can use your middle finger, do the same thing. Pretty straightforward. The slide release is only found on the left side right here. Okay, so I find it to be in a really good position for a right-hander to use the thumb to hit that. Okay. For a lefty, it's still possible, although you'll kind of have to wiggle your hand back like this in a weird way in order to hit that, if you choose to use the slide release after you've loaded a new mag and such. Right? Otherwise, you can just power stroke it. So that's the only downside if you are a lefty and you want to use this gun. Okay, so as you can see, it is possible, but you do have to kind of tweak with it. And the big danger too is if you're doing this, if you're a lefty, is your middle finger might hit that mag release by accident. So you kind of have to watch out for that. The safety on this gun, which is probably my most favorite part of this handgun. It's not everyone likes it. Some people hate it. I kind of like the idea a lot, and it just feels really natural to me. The safety is right where your trigger finger is, which is this lever right here, and it's actually ambidextrous. It's on both sides. Okay, so 2 ways you can do this. The way that I like to do it the most, which is probably the most common sense to me, is just to use your trigger finger when your fingers are here. When you're ready to fire, just push that down, and now you can see that little red marking, and as you know, red equals dead, so that lets you know the gun is ready to fire. So that is, and then you just push it back up with your trigger finger again to put the safety back on. Now, the other way, which I don't really prefer, but some people do because it's easier for them. If you're shooting 2 hands, you just take your support hand and just pull that down with your thumb, take the safety off, push it back up, put the safety on. So that's 2 ways you can do it. I personally like using my trigger finger just because it feels more natural to me. One thing you'll have to be aware of though with this Tokyo Marui handgun is the safety will be really stiff at the beginning. It took a while. Like when I was first trying it out, the safety, like, it was really hard to move. It was easy to take the safety off, but when it came to putting it back on, it was just super stiff. Like I sometimes just had to use my other hand or the finger to put it back on. So it will take some time to kind of wear it in. So don't let that discourage you. It will break in over time once you kind of work the safety in enough. Okay, so that's something to watch out for. Sights are pretty standard. You got a 3-dot sight, one dot on the front sight here, and then 2 dots at the back. So pretty straightforward. They're non-adjustable, at least with this one, because this is based off of the Mark 1 version. Mark 2 version, which would have been nice if they make an update on this. It'd be nice if they could do the Mark 2 version. It will have some serrations to the front, so Makes it easier to rack the slide if you prefer not to rack it from back here. But because you got a bit of a protruding edge here, it still makes it fairly easy to kind of rack the slide if you need to. So not the end of the world, but what's better is what I prefer is the fact that they have the serrations here, and they have these kind of elongating ears, if you will, or little edges here. It makes it super easy to like rack that slide back. I think that's what's really nice about the slide in particular, is that you can just, with that, it just makes it so much easier to rack the slide, especially if you have sweaty hands or if you're wearing gloves. So it's pretty great. Now, probably the most cool part about this gun, or unique part should say, is that this is a full polymer body handgun. Now, even the slide itself is a plastic shell. There's an internal slide though that is metal, so it will be durable for shooting. In fact, the real FN57 is the same thing. It's a polymer shell, and it has a metal inner slide, so that way it holds up to the abuse that it takes. So that's what makes this gun really light, and because Tokyo Marui, it's obviously known for having using plastic slides and whatnot because of their laws. It actually works in this case because it is based off of the real thing, since the slide is technically plastic, right? At least it's polymer, at least with the outer portion of it. So it works perfectly in this case. So in this case it benefits Tokyo Marui. It gets extra points for that. So yeah, to do the takedown, you're gonna have this little switch right here. You're just gonna have to pull this back like this. Once you pull that back, pull the slide back a little bit, and then just lift up like that. Okay, and then from here, you got your outer barrel, or just barrel assembly in general. Your hop up is right here, so you can, whenever you need to adjust the hop, you can do your adjustments. Kind of sucks you have to keep taking the slide apart, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, you can kind of see the metal inner slide there, which helps to reinforce the internals, just like that. And then put it back together. It's a little bit finicky. It does take a bit of patience, but you'll want to make sure the takedown lever is in the back position first. You're gonna insert that from the top, and then once you want to kind of make sure it's fitted at the back first, like this, and then from here, just pull back, and then your slide is now back on the gun. Okay. So it does take a bit of getting used to or understanding of how to like properly fit it back on when you're reassembling it, but you'll get it over time. And what's really nice about the FN57 is that it has a included Picatinny rail right at the bottom there, so you can add any lasers, flashlights. In this case, I have a replica Surefire X300 that I got off of AliExpress. And as you can see, you can actually just slide it on there. Pretty simple, okay? And obviously I can do my weapon manipulation with my trigger finger. Some people like to use their thumb, but it's pretty sweet, okay? I'll do a more in-depth walkthrough of my FN57 setup, because I am still waiting to get a few things, like a holster, which I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, and then I'm looking to do some external upgrades. I'm looking to upgrade the slide and the frame and just everything in general, just to make it a bit more durable and look more sick. So that's that. Now, as far as the trigger goes, let's talk about the trigger. It's a very wide trigger, if you can kind of see. It's very wide, so it makes it really easy. It feels very comfortable on your finger when you're pulling that trigger back. So let's go ahead and go to that trigger. So gun is empty, okay, magazine is out. One thing to note is that the real FN57, it has a magazine disconnect, which means that unless the magazine is in, the gun will not fire. So you wouldn't be able to test fire the trigger on the real FN57 unless you had the magazine in. The good thing though is that you can actually disable the magazine disconnect for the real gun if you are so inclined to do so. With the Tokyo Marui FN57 version, it doesn't have that magazine disconnect because it just can't, right? So it's not far from the reality. So even though you can't really do this with the real FN57, you can if you disable the magazine disconnect. So this is not that far from the actual reality of things. So let's see. You got about 2 millimeters of play before you hit the wall, and you got maybe about, I'd say, 4 or 5 pounds of trigger pull right there. The reset is pretty long. It's about 5 millimeters, so pretty long reset, but nothing like if you can get used to the trigger, I think you can get some pretty fast follow-up shots if you so please. So yeah, one thing I will mention, well, now we'll test. So I'll show you the recoil now with this too. Magazine's empty, has some gas, chamber is clear, and then I will show you the recoil for this gun. And as you can see, even with a plastic slide, even with, you know, it being Tokyo Marui, it's got a really good kick. Very snappy, feels great. You get a nice shock through your arms and whatnot. So I'm really impressed. For a Tokyo Marui pistol, people always give crap about Tokyo Marui pistols because it's plastic and they think, you know, it doesn't have a lot of kick and whatnot. This one, definitely, it gets a thumbs up as far as the recoil goes. And because since the real one is a plastic polymer slide, it doesn't matter. Like it's accurate to the real things, and you get quality internals and performance, because we are talking about Tokyo Marui here. They're known for having really good hop-up systems, so and good accuracy. And if you want to upgrade and get proper, even more accurate externals as far as like the trademarks, because obviously Tokyo Marui, this is a Tokyo Marui, so the trademarks aren't 100% accurate. I am looking to upgrade this. So I just recently got a garter upgrade kit for the FN57, so I could upgrade the slide and the frame, so that way it has a better finish to it, and you can also, it has the proper trademarks to it as well. So you can make that upgrade, and it's actually not that expensive either. So if you're thinking about getting this, you want to make sure it's more accurate to the real thing, you can get the garter upgrade kit to make this even better, and change out the switches from gray to black if you so wish, because the upgraded, the later versions of the FN57 had black switches rather than gray. So that is one thing you'll want to take note of if you decide to make that switch. Okay, couple things I will mention just before, you know, I close off this review. Overall, really good pistol. I'm really enjoying this so far. It's really fun to shoot. It's very accurate. Does take a bit of time to kind of adjust the hop up just to make sure it's shooting straight, but other than that, once you can get it dialed in, it's really, like, flies really straight even with a 0.2 gram BB. Now, speaking of that, out of the box, because it is a Tokyo Marui pistol, you're not getting a lot of FPS out of it. So it's right around 300 feet per second, at least right now where I am in Canada. It's winter time, so it's pretty cold right now. Maybe in the summertime it'll warm up a bit more. Maybe we'll get 310, 320, who knows, but you're probably going to be right around that 280 and 310 FPS range. So not a lot, but you don't really need a lot when it comes to a pistol. And Tokyo Marui, it's all about accuracy here and range. The other thing I will mention is that, which is kind of neat, it can be a benefit, but it can also be a maybe not so nice feature depending on how you look at it. Is, so I got a BB here. I'm gonna show you this, and this is something that is common with a lot of TM pistols. Is that when you load the chamber up. Okay, so now I've loaded one in the chamber now. Okay, I'm gonna take the magazine out, and what's kind of nice about Tokyo Marui pistols, or maybe it's not nice, but the hop up is a little bit harder or firmer than other brands with a softer hop up. When you rack the slide, I'll show you this right here. I'm going to cover the bottom here because basically when you want to empty the chamber, you can actually eject the round just like that. So if whatever reason, maybe you're doing IPSC stuff or you just want to be extra safe and you want to clear that chamber as you're exiting the field or something like that, that's the kind of added benefit with the TM. I'll show it again to you. So when it's loaded here, I'm going to load the chamber, put the mag out, and then just give it a good, and when you want to empty the chamber, you just rack the slide, and then the round will fall out, like so. So kind of a nice benefit if you're just looking to be extra safe, to make sure you don't have one in the chamber, because other guns you'll have to use the ejection rod to, a unjamming rod to take the BB out, or push the BB out. But on the other hand, for some people, they want to put an extra, after they loaded the BB in the barrel, or one in the chamber, then they'll like to put an extra round in their magazine so they have an extra round when they're actually on the field and stuff. So take it as you will. Some people like it, it's an added benefit. Some of you might not. So that's just one thing to know. The other thing to know is that from what I've experienced especially with these magazines, is that I don't know if it's just because I made the modification to the feeding hole to widen it, but sometimes when you're shooting through the magazine, and I think it's dependent too on how much or how hard the gun is kicking when you're shooting it, depending on the temperature, is that sometimes as the BBs are kind of feeding up here, the BBs will kind of get jammed in the magazine, so it won't push up all the way to the follower here, or the top. So sometimes you're gonna get dry fires and such when the BBs kind of get crammed, especially on like maybe the last 5-6 rounds. But it can even happen like when there's only 20 rounds in the magazine or whatnot. So that is something you have to be aware about. Is maybe it might just be I have to break in the magazines a little bit more over time, or just, you know, especially if the temperatures are a bit colder and the gun's not kicking as hard enough, the gun won't shake the follower enough to push the BBs up. Because when the gun's kicking hard, it will continue to push all those BBs up, and every BB will feed, and the gun will lock back at the last shot. But sometimes if I'm not getting a lot of kick or something, or just whatever, I don't know what it is exactly again, the BBs will kind of just get jammed up halfway or right around here, just before the follower here, or the feed lip, and then I'll get dry fires and I'll have to take the mag out and kind of fumble with the follower like this to unclear the jam and finish off those rounds. So that is something you'll have to be aware about and stuff if you get the FN57. At least that's something that I've dealt with. I've dealt with every magazine that I've got ever since with this gun. So yeah, that is something to look out for if you do end up getting this. But the polymer body and stuff, it's a pretty light gun, so it's coming in at around 1.6 pounds. With the tack light, if you do add a tack light like this, it'll just make it an extra 0.2 pounds, so like 1.8 pounds. So pretty light, but it feels really good in the hands, like especially because of wide grip. If you have bigger hands like myself, it feels really comfortable. Checkering, you know, feels great. It's got a nice texture to it, but it might start digging to your hands a little bit too, so beware of that. Maybe over time it'll kind of wear in, or when I switch to the garter frame, maybe it'll feel a little bit more comfortable. So that was a couple things that to take note as well, if depending on your hand size or what you like. So, and one last thing too I forgot to mention is finding holsters for this. So finding a holster for this will be quite challenging, especially if you want to run a light with this. Right now I'm trying my best to get a custom Kydex holster for the FN57 for a Surefire X300. Unfortunately, it is taking quite a bit of time because there aren't any airsoft markets that are selling an FN57 holster, at least where I've looked as well. Just getting one, let alone getting one with the, allows you to have a light on at the same time. So yeah, you're gonna have the holsters for FN57s are pretty tricky. So I've ordered one from Kydex, from a Kydex site. But the time it'll take to actually actually custom mold it and stuff, it's gonna take about a month. So just to make it, and then probably a couple extra weeks to actually ship it. So yeah, right now I can't even run around and game with it if I wanted to, or just have it on my belt because I don't have a holster for it yet. So yeah, when that time comes around, and by then I'll probably have this all upgraded with the new frame and slide, all that stuff. So maybe then I'll be able to do a full breakdown of my setup with this. So that's the one of the big downsides with this too. So, or the challenges you'll have to face if you get this. So that's pretty much everything now. So if you have questions, leave it down in the comments below, and thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you guys in my future videos, and until next time, peace out, guys.